if you've DM'd for any length of time working through modules produced by gaming companies like TSR and WotC, or you've purchased modules that other people have written on drive-through RPG and that kind of thing, I'm sure at some point you will have thought, maybe I would like to have a crack at creating a world, creating a special place of my own for my players to roleplay through. It's very much a daunting task, you could say, when people first consider it, because it seems so monumental, especially when you start comparing yourself to the likes of Ed Greenwood, who created the Forgotten Realms campaign setting, arguably the biggest, some would say the best, ever associated with D&D. The width and breadth of information is just crazy. I mean, he didn't write all of it. He had created this independently himself and then sold the rights to it to TSR, where it's continued to be used right up until this day. There's so much interesting stuff in the Forgotten Realms setting. We've got a few hundred novels, many modules, supplemental books, further fleshing it out. It really is a sight to behold and consider. So when you look at things like that, or even when I look at the Dragonlance setting in the world of Kryn, it can be intimidating. You think that you're not capable of doing it because it's not going to be as good as that. Well, don't doubt yourself. Everybody has the capacity to create their own world. And what makes it daunting is where to start. And that's what this series is going to be about, is about world building. Now, I've watched many a video on world building, and there's lots of different, I guess, approaches you can take. Some people draw a map first, start putting in towns or features such as mountains or a forest or a desert, and section by section start populating it. Some people will start with a city, a central location or a central area on a map, flesh that out, and then work from there. It really depends on when you plan to use it or how you plan to use it and how soon you want to get your players into that world. But you needn't think that you need to have reams and reams of information. You could just start by just writing campaigns, generic campaigns, adventures that your players will work through, and their actions actually help develop the world. So they might start here at City A, and they travel southwest and end up at City B. You might make City B up on the fly with a name. There's all different ways to start fleshing out the world, where you're not going to get caught unstuck or caught with your pants down when you don't have particular information about things. So this is what this series is about, and I'm kind of revising even my own strategy when it comes to creating a world. I want this world that I start creating in this series, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to be creating it for my own use. I want this world to be the last campaign world I ever create. And that sounds very final, but if you imagine even planet Earth where we live, all the different climates, and all of the unexplored places even now, you're always going to have avenues for creativity, locations to invent different sorts of environments. It doesn't have to be, a earthly thing that we're used to. You could have a sandy desert, but the sand is very cold rather than being hot. Or whatever you choose to do, and with those quirks that you add into your own world to make it your own, you're naturally making adventure hooks. You're naturally bringing in obstacles or situations that will either disadvantage or give advantage to the players. So that's where we're at, and this is what we're going to do. So I'm going to endeavour to cover all the different aspects of world creation. That's mapping, designing NPCs, all that kind of thing. Now, I'm not going to cover in totality on video everything that I create. I'm basically going to work through some world creation of my own and document where I'm at, what I've done, how I took approach to that certain part of the world creation process, to give you ideas. Like, D&D is a very free-form game, especially as the dungeon master or the game master, whatever term you prefer. You absolutely have the ability to shape the world as you see fit. Like I did mention in my last video about Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and things that I like about it better than 5th edition, I talk about the wealth of material. So we've got multiple campaign settings with different sort of informational source books, actual adventure modules to take players through locations. You don't need any of that. I like that stuff, and I've never taken a group of players through a module that somebody else has written. It's never happened. I've owned many, but I use them as a source of inspiration, and that's an option for you too. If you've bought stuff and you're like, well, I bought all these things and I don't want to use them, they still totally can be of use, and you can run a module off the shelf through your world. You can use that module to build your world, change the names of some places, some characters, and biggity bam. It's helped flesh out a little part of your world and a little bit of the lore that happens, because as parties move through and their accomplishments get greater and greater, you're creating lore and legend for your world. It's great to just be able to go, this is the town here, and there's this many people, and there's 4 blacksmiths and 6 taverns and blah blah blah. But it's so nice to be able to write flavor text for your campaign world. It's even better to write flavor text based on the exploits of players that you have run through there. And when you do subsequent adventures, players are going to get an absolute kick to find out that their characters have not only been there, but are an integral part of the legend of your campaign setting, of your world. So, in conjunction with this, and it will come a little bit later, but there'll be a secondary, I guess, like a partner series to this, because there's world building and there's like campaign creation. So when I say campaign creation, I'm thinking of, a module that you'll run players through. So we're going to try to get ahead a bit, create some of the world, and then create campaign in part of the world, and I'm going to try to show you how to shape that stuff. Now, I've done, or started, I should say, because there's a campaign world ever finished, like multiple over the years, multiple, and to sort of get to the point, and then you sort of stop playing, or you don't have players to DM, and then when you get players back, I get all inspired, and then I'm starting again. I don't want to do that this time. I want to create the world. A group of players can run through, and if you run multiple groups of players, again with the legend and lore, other groups can hear about the exploits of the other party, whether it's like directly or indirectly, or through rumors in the city, all these kinds of things. You can use 2-player groups to affect each other and therefore help shape the adventures of those individual groups. Again, this is stuff that doesn't require world building, but I'm just talking about how you can use that as a DMing tool to shape your campaign world. So this is just a bit of an introduction of what I've got planned. the videos aren't going to be scheduled specifically because is going to vary with work and when I'm on dad duty, and things like that. And sometimes you'll get a creativity burst. Sometimes you get writer's block. You don't really know what to go from there. But so I've got a couple of ideas rattling around in my head for this campaign world that I'll quickly share in this first video. And these aren't rule specific or anything like that. It's just things that have sort of inspired me. So the first one is the heavy metal band The Who. Now that's The Who, H-U. They're a Mongolian metal band, so they combine metal with the throat singing, and it's just really cool to listen to and get a vibe. So in my world, I want to have one area based off Mongolian culture, just because of a band. Like, that's awesome. I wanna delve into that. The other thing is something I picked up on eBay yesterday, waiting for it to get arrived. Is I found a bunch of, for cheap, old from 1980 Grenadier dwarven miniatures, so metal, pewter, whatever you want to call it. They're super cool. They're old school minis. So I really want to put a lot of time and effort into dwarves, and try to make something different. I don't even have an idea of what I'm going to do when it comes to the dwarves, but I am very much a adherent to the Tolkien-esque typical high fantasy tropes of how dwarves are portrayed. You watch all the shows, they've got a Scottish accent, they hate elves, blah blah blah. Flint out of Dragonlance is a prime example of that, and I love Flint. He's absolutely awesome. But maybe I could think of something different. Maybe I can't. Who knows? But I really want to get into that and have that depth that things like Forgotten Realms have. There's not just elves. We've got elves and you've got drow. We have the sort of like the high elves and the wood elves and all these sorts of things. The Durgar, living in the Underdark as far as dwarves are concerned. Hill dwarves or mountain dwarves that don't really live underground. All these different cool things. So I hope that sounds appealing to you. If it is, definitely keep an eye out for the next world building video. So that's about it. So what I'm going to do in the next episode is to speak about some tools and resources that I use or would like to use or plan to use moving forward. And so much of this stuff is available for basically free. You're already on the internet, you're watching this video. YouTube has an insane amount of videos on that kind of thing, including world building, and my techniques or my way of doing things might not work for you, but you'll find something else out there. So thanks for watching. Welcome to the world building series, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers, guys.